Hello, I want to open with a question, and I want to warn you before I ask if that before I ask it. This is a difficult question. No, I always say that, right? No, I want to warn you before I ask it. This is not a difficult question. It's just an expensive question. It's going to cost you. 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 So here it is. What did you do with the last 4 years? What did you do? Not last week. I mean, you can answer for last week, right? Last week has a calendar attached to it. You can go back and say, oh, I did this and this and that and that and the other. And a travel plan has a to-do list that's got some checks on it. I mean, you could recite if I pressed you on it, and you'd be telling the truth. And none of that is what I'm asking. I'm asking about 4 years. I mean, what did you build? Okay, what did you build? What exists in the world today that did not exist in the world then? I mean, what could you take another human being by the hand and walk them over to and point and say, hey, look at this. This is what I've been doing for the last 4 years. And for a great many of you, there is nothing to say. And that nothing, a lot of times, is just very disorienting. And I want to say in the disorient, I want to stay right there in the disorientation for a minute. This is one of the things that I really want to focus. And the more you listen to some of the things that I have to say, the more you'll see that the difficult spaces, the pressure, the hard times, the question, the reflection moments, this is where growth takes place, all right? This is where real creation comes from. So let's stay in the disorientation for a moment. I don't want to rush past it because the disorientation is honest, and almost everything you'll hear about it afterward will not be. Okay? Here we go. You were not idle. And you know you were not idle. You were tired. Every single night of those 4 years, you were tired in a way that sleep did not touch, which is the tiredness of a machine that's been running under load, right? And a person does not get that tired doing nothing. I mean, something was drawing the power every breath, every single time. You just can't find the meter. You don't know how to gauge it, how to measure it. You know, I study historical theology. Augustine wrote that he knew perfectly well what time was until somebody asked him to explain it. And then he did not know at all. And I've found the same thing to be true of my own hours. And I suspect you have found it about yours. And I want to give you a way of looking at time and looking at those hours that has held up for me under conditions where very little else did. And these are the three kinds of time in a human life, and only one of them is stealing from you, right? The first type of time is what I call resonant time, RESONANT, resonant time. You can go to my blog, you can go to autonomycommission.com, you can read about these things. This is the time you spend preparing, thinking, doing, reflecting on things that express who you actually are, ontologically, internally. And this time spent is not necessarily pleasant, and it is frequently difficult. What distinguishes it is that the action proceeding outward from the person, or is proceeding outward from the person, rather than being assembled to satisfy an expectation, a room, a relationship, a culture, etc. When you are in it, when you are in this time, something exists afterward that did not exist before. And you can point at it. You can, and you would still claim it if nobody had ever known or realized you've done it. The second type of time is maintenance time. All right, this is inevitable. It's dishes, paperwork, oil change, washing your hair, the call you owe your mother, laundry that did not get folded, a car that doesn't register itself, and a body that has to be fed 3 times a day as long as you intend to keep it. All right? Maintenance is not waste, and I will not have it slandered in this room. doing the things that are required of us to maintain the life we live, as mundane as they are, is not waste. It is the floor that everything else stands on, and a life without it collapses inward within about 11 days. And my core values, number 7, is to feed the core. And that feed the core, it took me a while, but it took me 4 months of lying in the bed wondering if I was going to survive it. Had I been doing more maintenance in life and health, those wouldn't have come. But if they hadn't have come, I wouldn't have had the silence to get to the conclusions that I've learned to excavate the me beneath it all. So maintenance then is honest labor, and it has one identifying property that matters enormously for what I'm about to say. Maintenance completes, okay? The dishes get clean. The form gets filled. The bills get paid. The call gets made. The account gets settled, and the thing is done. And then there is, so we've got resident time and maintenance time. And the third type of time is distortion time. And distortion time is time consumed by unresolved internal contracts. It's almost never on the calendar. Nobody has scheduled anything of it. Nobody assigned it. And most people living inside of it are not even aware that it's happening. It runs as a shadow underneath the hours that are on the calendar, drawing from the same account, but reporting to nobody, right? Let me give you the example I use because it is small enough to be believable. Somebody in your life sends you a text. I mean, you know who I'm describing, right? It could be a parent or a partner, a child, a coworker, a friend, whatever. And the moment the name comes up on your screen, something inside of your chest does a thing that has nothing to do with the content of the message. You feel that you must respond and that you have to respond promptly. You also know, without articulating this, that responding is going to cost you something. So you do not respond immediately. You go and you do other things, right? And the other things are real things. They're not distractions. They're not screens or whatever. They're on your to-do list. They're on your calendar. They're on your mind. They are your work, your family, the ordinary and legitimate business of a life that is largely aligned with who you are. But the entire time you're inside of these tasks, there's a bird on the back of the room, in the back of the room, flying to try to get out the window. And you think of what you need to say, right? You draft a sentence and you erase it. You imagine how it's going to land. How's this person going to think? How's this going to? You imagine how it will land if you say it the other way, and then you write it down, and then it comes back up, and you put it down, and it comes back up, and in your head, you're not even putting it in the phone yet. It all comes back up. And then later you're on the phone call with a different person and the thing is running underneath the call. You're at dinner and it's running underneath dinner. And then that night in bed, you pick up the phone and you write the 2-minute response. 2 minutes. 2 minutes of typing. 2 hours of your one and only life for 2 minutes of typing. That is distortion time. And you'll not find it in any accounting that you've ever done of yourself, because nowhere in those 2 hours did you experience yourself as wasting anything. You experienced yourself as being careful, and now you're tired. Why? Because you worked in shadow 2 hours that you weren't aware of on something that should have taken 2 minutes. And that is the whole reason 4 years can pass without a single alarm sounding. Distortion time does not feel like waste while you're inside of it. It feels like preparation and processing. And it's like, man, it feels, and I want you to hear how cruel this is. It feels like exactly what a thoughtful and responsible person is supposed to be doing before they do anything. Your mind is not idle in there. Real effort is being expended. And you're not lying to anyone when you say you have a thought about this, that you've thought about this a great deal, because you have thought about it a great deal. And you will think about it a great deal more tomorrow. And the thinking will arrive at precisely the same place it arrived today, which is where it started. The engine has been at full throttle for 4 years. The vehicle has never left the driveway. The shapes are limited, and you'll recognize every one of them. Here's what they look like. Or here's what I call them. Not just me, a lot of people. Rumination, which is the same event examined from the same angle until nothing new can possibly emerge, okay? Replay, Replay, which is the past reconstructed with better lines than the ones you actually had. Rehearsal, which is a future conversation scripted in detail that will never occur as written because the other person did not receive a copy of the script and is going to say something that you did not plan for, right? Fantasy, which is how do I want to say this? Okay, fantasy, residence in a life that you're not building. It's just a story. It's fan fiction. Okay, scrolling, which is the consumption of other people in place of contact with your own. Emotional looping, which is feeling a thing repeatedly in place of resolving it once. And the quietest of these things, identity rehearsal, which is trying on a self rather than living from a true self. 7 shapes and one structure underneath all 7. Every one of them returns you to the exact position you occupied when you began. Motion without displacement. You can do this for a decade and arrive at the same coordinates, carrying nothing, having worked without pause the entire time. And the terrible part is that when you feel like you deserve, better because you feel like you've worked hard, and you have, and you will be right. Now I need to close the door because most people escape through this. They'll run right now. You're going to tell me it was rest. Itchy. Allergies. You're going to tell me it was contemplation, or that it was just maintenance. And I want to take all 3. Rest restores. That is the entire test, and there is no way around it. Genuine rest hands you back to your life with more capacity than you took into it. Both of these can happen on the same couch in the same 3 hours, wearing the same clothes, and no observer can tell them apart. The difference does not appear in the middle. It appears when you stand up. If you stood up emptier, you were not resting. You were working, and the work was the contract. Contemplation arrives somewhere. A person who has genuinely contemplated a thing walks out of the room holding something he did not walk in with. And it does not have to be an answer. It can be nothing more than a cleaner statement of the problem. The question is not whether you thought hard. You did. It's whether you know one thing at 4 o'clock that you did not know at 3 o'clock. And maintenance completes. I said that already, and I'm saying it again because this is where the misfiling happens. Distortion time distinguishes itself as maintenance more often than anything else because maintenance is legitimate, right? And unglamorous, and nobody interrogates it. But the dishes get clean, the form gets filed. Distortion time never completes, and it never completes for a reason that is structural rather than accidental. Completion was never available to it. There is nothing at the end of it to arrive. There is no finish line. So you've done what? Some of you think, well, I've seen this. So you've tried the obvious thing. Almost everyone has, several times, sincerely. You bought the system, you blocked the calendar, you took the applications off your phone, you felt clean for 11 days and reinstalled them on a Tuesday for a reason that sounded entirely sound at the time. It did not hold, and I want you to stop reading that failure as a defect in your character because it is not a defect. You are not broken. Structure imposed on top of an unresolved contract does not stop the loss. It organizes the loss. And you build a more efficient container for the same leak. And now the hours drain on a schedule, and you have added a second injury underneath the first one, which is the settled belief that you're a person who cannot follow through. But you can follow through. You have followed through on things that mattered to you for your entire life. What you cannot do is out-discipline an identity problem, and this is one, all the way down. Here's what is actually running. Somewhere in your life, there's an agreement that you never signed. Somebody needed something from you, and you understood what was needed before it was even said because you've always been able to read people, to read a room. And being able to read a room early is generally a sign that reading the room once kept you safe and accepted. So you gave them what was needed, and you kept giving it. It was never acknowledged because it was never requested out loud. And a debt that has never been named cannot be settled by any amount of payment. See, that agreement does not sit quietly. It runs. And it runs and it runs and it runs and it runs. It's running when you're in the shower. It's running when you're in the car. It's running at 11 o'clock at night when the house has finally gone still and there's nobody left to perform for. And it takes one shape almost every single time. You're having a conversation with somebody who is not in the room. You explain yourself to them. You find better words than you had last time. You reach the part where their face changes and they finally understand what you've been trying to carry and what you've been dealing with and the burden that you've had. And something in your chest just releases a quarter inch at the picture of it, at the thought of it, at the idea. Then the picture dissolves and you begin again at the top. And you've been doing that for 4 years. And the loop is not going to be broken by force or discipline or willpower or decision because you are still waiting on a verdict from someone who is never going to deliver one. You are still assembling the case, and you'll keep assembling it until the day you no longer require the verdict, which happens through discovery rather than effort. When you find out what you actually are underneath the entire arrangement, the loop loses its subject. There's no longer anyone inside you who needs that person to understand. You don't defeat it, you orphan it. And then something comes back that I want to describe, since it's easy to promise badly. When what you do begins proceeding from who you are, the arithmetic between hours and results change. And you've not become efficient. You've stopped paying a tax that never appeared on a statement, which is that holding up a version of yourself costs something continuously in the background, whether anyone is watching or not, at every moment, every breath, every blink of every eye. You're holding it. Set it down, and that expenditure returns. Attention arrives first, and you'll credit it to sleep. Energy arrives second, and you'll go looking for a physical explanation. And then the strangest thing happens. And people describe almost identically this every single time. Their days have gotten longer. The days did not get longer. They stopped losing the days. I did not get out of this until 2023, 1 month before I turned 49. 48 years of running an engine at full throttle in a driveway, and I could have explained my life to you fluently the entire time. You were not behind. You've been spending everything you have on a conversation with somebody who's not in the room. I don't care what room it is. I don't care what field it is, what space it is, whether it be a church or a community or a job or a career or a family room or a partnership or whatever it is. You don't need more time. You need the hours you already have to stop being taken from you. And when you get them, and they operate in freedom, truth of who you truly are, I cannot explain to you, I could not poetically opine to you that even in the midst of increasing pain, chaos, and fear, which won't actually be fear, it'll be fuel, you are still very much more alive, and your days are counted in breaths, not tasks. I'm James. This is Unbound. Freedom for Life. See you next time.